Oh, you're giving me one? Okay, right. Then we can both answer. Okay, this is from Taylor, and he says, hello. Well, it might be she, I don't know, but hello. I would like to know how challenging you found your first year in real estate. I'm looking forward to this. And if you got the results you thought during that first year.
Yeah, first year in real estate, I was 19 years ago. So I was 25, 26 when I started. I'd just come back from the UK. So I had limited people that I knew here, and none of my mates could afford to buy a house. So I certainly wasn't going to get much business from them. So it was pretty scary, to be fair. And I'd come out of a salary-based job, 9 to 5 in the UK, and it's scary when you're going into a job where you don't get paid. And that's what I was really worried about. And
no certainty.
My mum and dad were telling me, don't do it, and they're still worried about me today in real estate. But I just worked really hard, and I was lucky enough to be put into Harcourt's Gold by my auntie and uncle, who thought it was the best office for me, and it turned out it was. But I just remember working my guts out. I just remembered spending as much time as I could talking to everyone in the office. And I remember, I've talked about this before, talking to Alan Gunn, who was one of the top agents in the city then, and having 10 minutes with him in the kitchen and having lunch together. And the ability just to rub shoulders with those sort of people to learn what they do was priceless, you know. And then what happens is, as you start talking to them, they start to think you're a nice guy, and then they start to think, well, if I'm going to go away, I'm going to give Cameron my open homes, or I'm going to, maybe I've got too many open homes in the weekend, they'll give me some open homes. So I started to pick up a little bit of business from there, and then
worked for Mark.
A great man, Mark, knocked me on the shoulder and said, hey, I've noticed what you've been doing around the office. You seem to be working really hard and really well. How about coming to work with me?
Yeah.
And everyone said to me, don't do it. You'll be great by yourself. Don't do it. And I kind of went against the grain then. And I went and worked with Mark when a lot of people said to me, don't do it, but it felt right. And it was the best thing that worked for me, because I had volume of work come around me straight away. I was meeting people. I was going to appointments with him. I was learning what he was saying, what he was doing, how he was handling certain situations. So it grew me as an agent really quickly. And that's probably one of our assets at Gold, is that you can grow real quickly to be a great agent.
And we've got them coming through all the time, haven't we?
So, I mean, I remember it being really hard. There was lots of knocks and there was disappointments, but there was highs as well. I remember selling my first house. It was in Alresford Street, which is in St Albans, and it was a multi-offer. And I didn't really know what I was doing, and but I won the multi-offer and sold the house, and it was exciting. And I remember, having offers that crashed, and they gut you, because you get so excited about a sale, and then they pull out on finance, and it was gutting. And I thought, I'm going to quit, I'm no good at this job, and then it can be a month before you do another sale, and you're beginning to doubt yourself. But I mean, I had so many good people around me, particularly in the office, that it just kept me moving.
Keep you going.
And that's the whole thing. When you've got people in the office that are writing sales up, and I remember going through the GFC, and it was a really tough market for real estate, and I remember seeing that other people in the office were writing sales up, so they were showing me that it's possible, and they were showing me that the market's not that bad, and it's like I said, success leaves clues, and that was probably the thing that got me through those tough years, because the first 2 years in real estate are super tough. I basically worked 7 days a week. I treated it just like a lifestyle. I didn't do anything else really apart from real estate. I had no room in my life for anything else, which caused problems.
Which we don't recommend.
Yeah, we don't recommend.
Do not do that.
We don't recommend. I was hugely successful in my first few years of real estate, but I was hugely unsuccessful in other parts of my life. So relationships then, and
maintaining friendships with
my
people.
Friendships and health and fitness just went aside. I remember that when I started, I put some weight on. I wasn't training. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't eating good food. I mean, a good friend of mine's got a photo of me in the car in the first few years. With the KFC?
I knew they would come up.
And I haven't had KFC
I remember
for
that.
years, but I remember those days because I lost all perspective of what I really wanted in life, and I was so focused on real estate because I thought this is my lifeline, But through the years, I've grown to be I'm certainly not balanced, but to be a little bit more balanced. I've got a lot more going on. but I still can't. I haven't got it right. Like it's Friday. I'm working all day today. I shouldn't be, because I've had a day off earlier in the week. So, but it's just what it is. Like it's just life. You know, like you can't be perfect all the time, and you've got to just do the best you can.
I love that.
But the first 2 years, real tough.
Can I answer for me? Okay, so Taylor, I could almost cry talking about my first few years. So just bear with me while I take you on this journey. So it's 30 years ago. I was 32. So I was 32. We had an 18-month-old baby boy, a young little boy, Harry. I drove a Ford Sierra, and I had been a nurse. I was a senior staff nurse in a surgical ward. And we'd been sort of doing up houses, and the gentleman that used to sell them, Robert McCormack, who's kind of like a legend in real estate here in Christchurch, used to do it. And I went away one Christmas, and Johnny said, "Hey, I think you'd be good at this." And I thought, yes, I would. So spoke to Robert and came on board. But I started in the January, so with all of that. So leaving nursing, which didn't go down very well with my, with a lot of people, because nursing is considered, such a wonderful vocation, let alone, occupation. And real estate wasn't considered anywhere near that. Anywhere near that kind of level. So there was, disappointment. But I worked jolly hard, and this is, we're cut from very much the same cloth in this. My parents helped me with our beautiful boy. I would go into the office at 5 a.m. I would get myself all sorted. I had my diary all written up. I had food planned in advance, and I just worked jolly hard. Like, John gave me a lot of support. He was a plumber. My first ever listing was in Fendleton through a friend who lived across the road. In those days, we advertised in the press, in the pages. I put it under J for just listed, not F for Fendleton. And I did an open day, and someone said to me, what direction is north? Well, I didn't jolly well know, but Johnny had been hovering around. He came just to give me a bit of support. And he had a compass, as he would, and he said, "Oh, ma'am, I think this is north." So, I had a lot of help from my family, beautiful help from my husband, who came into the industry 2 years later. But the course of that first year of working so jolly hard, so let's go back, 1994, I earned $100,400. Now, the average price was not particularly high. And the average fee was nothing like we see today. So it was considered exceptional. And I think it is exceptional when I look back and think 30 years ago, that's what I was doing. And it was an extraordinary year. Lots of disappointments. I struggled with things. I'd come from a nursing role where everybody kind of did things collectively. Real estate at that stage was a little bit more, you were very independent, and I just had to get used to the way things were done. But it was life-changing. It remains so. I was very well rewarded for my efforts. I can tell you that I wasted just about all of it. I made massive mistakes. First mistake, bought a fancy posh car, couldn't put the bloody baby seat in the back. I've learnt since then, but it was an incredible year. So it turned out better than I expected. It was harder than I expected, but deeply rewarding. There we go. How about that?
I got from that it's the help you get from other people that gets you through your first and second years.
Big time.
So,
and it was the people that sat around me. My parents, obviously, my manager at the time. Valerie. She was exceptional. It was I look back, it was a pretty cool journey. And do you know what I'm thinking? All the mistakes, all the falls, all the things that went wrong were the things that made me better.
Because you learned from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat dumb shit, I don't want to keep making the same mistake.
Yeah. And that's probably the hardest thing. There's so many knocks the first couple of years to get to where you are. And it's having the resilience to handle those because you can constantly get beaten up. Yeah. And
you still get knocks.
I still get beaten up. I had a house crash yesterday and it should have gone through and it just annoyed me. And I had a purchaser that was trying to renegotiate the price at the final end, which never goes well on confirmation date. Now they hate each other. But,
oh no!
But I think I've got it back together. So that was my job today.
The great rescue.
And, I was doing that at 10 o'clock last night.
Oh,
so,
gee.
I love mistakes. I don't like making them, but I love them because I learn
the lesson.
Yeah, I love the lesson, and a lot of people don't learn from their mistakes. So we, as my team, we make mistakes. We bring them to the front table every Monday morning. We have a meeting, and Lynette's part of the meeting, and the whole team's together. It's kind of like the only time in the week that we're together. And one of the questions we've got is what mistakes did we make?
Where could we be better?
Where could we be better? And we talk about it, and we rip the scab off. And it's when we started doing that, it was a really hard thing because, in particular, the PAs, they felt like
they'd bristle, wouldn't they?
They would bristle because they were thinking that it was them. But I mean, to be honest, Brendan and I make more mistakes than anybody,
And they're in there now saying, hey guys.
And our mistakes filter through to them. So it's really interesting when you work out where the mistake is, where the lesson can be learned, because it often starts right at the top, but it filters down and everyone's involved in it. So we think it's a really positive thing to do, to talk about how we can get better and how we can learn.
I think what you're actually experiencing and your team is experiencing is a superb culture.
Yeah.
So where you're all wanting to get better.
That's also, like we talked about before, that's uncomfortable.
Discomfort,
Yeah. It's uncomfortable conversations because no one likes talking about how they've not performed properly.
Because a big fish in a small pond would want to think, I don't care if I've made a mistake, I'm still the big fish here.
Yeah.
I'm the big fish, doesn't matter. Very, very interesting. Right, we're going to do one more each.
I'm going to pick a ripper out from the bottom here.
Right. What have we got?
This is from Henry. Oh, this is for you, really. So, Lynette, I noticed you write for a number of magazines, but more about life than real estate. Is this intentional?
Yeah, it's absolutely intentional, Henry. I've been writing for 20 years now. I write for 3 magazines, Metropole 03, which was once Style, and Avenues. And I think that there is so much rhetoric and dialogue around real estate. It's at your fingertips. You can look up anything about real estate, but I think what I try to do is really talk about life's journey. I've got the good fortune of having a wealth of experiences and people around me all the time. I'm learning all the time, and I just want to share that, to be fair. And it makes for better articles. I get a lot of emails back, and I had one recently saying thank you. It might even be you, Henry, saying, hey, I read your things. I like the fact you don't talk about real estate. I'm actually in I think they were stockbrokers or they were in another company, and they said, I like sharing what you say because the teamwork, the things about culture, leadership, teamwork, strategy, everybody benefits from that. And I had another one from a lady, and she said, I've always judged and dismissed you. Don't hold back. She said, I've always judged and dismissed you and thought you were some sort of high flyer, and I read your latest article and I thought, she said, I actually felt ashamed. She said, I thought what you had to say, and it was about life and I guess about success and the things that sit around that and talking about people. And she said, I actually thought it was really useful, and I gave it to a friend. And I think if I can write and people share that, then that's pretty special, rather than saying, the market's come down 22% or the OCR's doing this. I think we can all get that, but I think it's nice to have someone who can maybe put it together and and do it that way.
I think that most people really quickly make judgments on other people without knowing them.
Yeah.
And that's a real shame, because I've known Lynette for 20 years now, and she's been a mentor of mine for 20 years, and to be able to have time with her is invaluable. So to learn from her wisdoms and her failures and everything like that, if she can get that across in a magazine or an article, I think that's the goal, because that's what I was talking about before. That's the people you've got to listen to, and that's the people you've got to learn from, because that will grow you.
Yeah.
And so many people, you know, look at us and look at me and look at Lynette, and they think they're just,
what do they think?
they're just terrible.
Which,
you know, like a lot of
not.
people put success and being a bad person together.
Yeah.
And or being cutthroat or being competitive or being all of those things, and you know, often you'll find it's just simply not the case, because most of this, just about all of the successful people that I know are wonderful people
and deeply sharing, aren't they?
They give back, they share, they'll
They're putting
try
things
and
into
make
the community.
time for you.
Yeah.
You know, like I've always found that, you know, the busiest people, they'll try and make time for you if you really, you know, make an approach to them properly. And people are scared to talk to me.
Yeah.
You know, like people look at me and they think Cameron's too busy and Cameron's
You've
this
never
and Cameron's
been too
that.
busy,
And I always, if someone makes an approach to me about, hey, can you have a coffee with me? I'll always try and find the time. But the funny thing is a lot of people don't ask because they're too scared. And this is what I think is that one of the differences with me and probably you when you started is you asked. You would have gone up to the number one agent, whoever that was when you started, and said, I wanted to, it was Alison Aiken.
Ali, you were there.
So,
it's actually Shane, but I spoke to Ali.
Yeah. So you soaked up their information and their knowledge, and you spent the time. And I wonder what happens with these people that don't ask those questions, because then they're left in their own little world trying to discover what they're going to do. And you could just get a pearl of wisdom or a little bit of confidence from someone just to push you on to the next thing. So
well, that's those fish again, isn't it?
It is.
You know. So I mean, I've so enjoyed this. I've probably said more than I usually do, and I've probably shared a little bit more.
It's been a long one.
I know I've probably shared a little bit more. If you've got to the end of that, bless you. You know, it's you know, such a privilege.
We love the questions because we love to answer them, and it gives us. We don't look at them in advance or anything like that. So maybe we should. But keep the questions coming.
Keep them coming.
It just gives us something to talk about.
And see you again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.